in my hand, searching for signs, lost in the sand. Whispers of fate, echoes of dreams in the dark slate. Nothing's as it seems. Flip the cards, turn around. Mysteries we have found. In the shadows we dance. Take a chance, take a chance. Ghostly figures.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Maureen. I hope everybody's having that amazing day, morning, afternoon, and all that stuff in between. As I listen to the dogs barking behind me. So, sitting here listening to the cards like they're the sounds of the ocean. Last night it was interesting. I was reading for this really wonderful young lady. And it's just interesting because I always say that the tarot, it's like the universe holds up a mirror and asks us, what do we see? And so a lot of times the tarot is just validating what we already know. And, it's one of those things that until we say something out loud, it does not become real. And I think that's like one of the important things about, the word manifest. It's like, what does that even mean? Well, sometimes the things that we know, they just stay in the back of our head and they're not real. But if we say something out loud, it's kind of like when you're doing therapy, unless you can admit there's a problem, then there's nothing to fix. Unless you can admit there's a problem, there's nothing to fix. And it's the same thing when we look in the tarot and it presents something to us. And meditation. So we were just talking about that last night, or the issue she was going on, but it really just brought forth, how many times I've heard somebody say, yeah, I know. Yeah, I know. But it's like, how many times have you ever said what you know out loud? And I think that's a lot of times the life-changing thing is that to verbalize something that's at the back of our head that we know, that little voice in the back of our head that we ignore sometimes. So I think that's kind of why doing self-reflection and meditation is important. Because it gives a voice to those little things at the back of our head. And I tell you, that's one of the loves that I have with reading tarot for people is that once that happens, it becomes a really interesting conversation. So, as we sit here and listen to the cards like the sounds of the ocean, because what was I doing? Rambling. My feet flat on the floor, butt in the seat, doing that kitty dance. Checking where the shoulders are, checking where the neck is, and taking that breath and getting ready to check in with the universe. So, and making our 3 stacks, each one a different thread going out to the universe, each one like a different thought or idea. And if we believe in the multiverse, what? It's as if each one of these is a different path, because this stack will lead down a different path, a different conversation from this one or this one. And so today, let's take the center stack, or what I like to think of as things right in the middle. Good morning, Angelina. So it is interesting, though, all that stuff I was talking about, because I was trying to think about what to do for the next class. And up in Haven and Havre de Grace, I'm going to do a class, and I presented it to her yesterday about doing kind of what we do here, the morning reflection, and how to teach people how to incorporate that as a form of journaling, which is what this really is if we think about it. So I'm going to develop this into a class. So, doing our 3-in-1 again, I'm going to flip each card over one at a time like we're reading the pages of a book. And this morning we start with the Lovers. So, as Hollywood have us think, the Lovers, and again, there is no set definition of what a tarot card is. But the Lovers traditionally, with the original tarot, it's about choices. It's about making those decisions. And then what are those things that influence our decisions? Like if we look at him, he's staring at her and he's got the flames behind him. So maybe it's a little bit of a desire as he's looking at her. And she is looking up at the angel. And we can see that we have the tree of knowledge here and temptations. But she's looking kind of beatific here. And so all these different influences are in this card and are going to influence our decisions. So when we see the Lovers, it's about, and this being a major, it's something we want to pay attention to also. So what's the next card? So the next card is the 5 of Cups. And fives are always challenges. And cups are our emotions, our feelings, and our spirituality. And the 5 of Cups is about loss. As we watch this person staring so hard at what he's lost, the spilling of his cups, that he doesn't notice that he still has 2 cups left. So when we see the 5 of Cups, we can see that it's about loss. It's about that feeling that we get. And he seems so isolated and alone because that's how we treat our loss a lot of times. So, let's see what the next card is. It's the King of Cups. So, we have choices to make in life. We have choices, even small choices to make. And sometimes with those choices, we have to accept that there's a loss to it. And that's not easy. And sometimes we make good choices. Sometimes we make bad choices. Sometimes choices, let's face it. Sometimes the choices are from above and they're made for us. And it's hard to see anything positive from it because we're staring so hard again. It's hard to see that we still have anything left. But there's so much to learn and to offer when we walk through these things. Because with the King of Cups, the king used to be a page. And the king used to be a knight. And all that activity, all that learning, all that fire and energy, until he meets the queen. And again, the cards are gender neutral. They're not they're not male or female. It's masculine energy, feminine energy. But until we grow from being that knight, when we have all that fire and energy, which can also just burn us up emotionally, until we meet the queen and look at cups are the element of water, queens are the element of water, until we really learn to grasp our feelings, our emotions, and our spirituality. That's where the king has to understand the queen. So the King of Cups, kings are about taking charge. Kings are the ones that need to make sure things get done around the kingdom. And again, it's not male or female. I can be the queen just as easy. But when we go through the things that we're finding difficult today, Sometimes a lot of these things are of our own choices. Good or bad, I mean, we make these decisions. But now we find that we're at a period, maybe where we're feeling a loss. Maybe the world is just bringing us down. But we become the king when we take all these losses and all these decisions and all these choices that led us to where we are. And we look forward. What can we do to keep the kingdom going, improving? Because the King of Cups is about empathy. It's about understanding. It's about spirituality. And the king is about being in command of our own lives without looking back with regret. The king is about being in command of our own lives without looking at regrets. And so here is the advice card, which is the 8 of Swords. So when we live with our regrets, when we live with all the things in the world that are binding us up, each one of these is a newspaper headline. Each one of these is a loss that we've had. Swords are our thoughts, our ideas, and sometimes our anxiety. And sometimes, because if each one of these is a loss, or each one of these is a headline, or each one of these is an anxiety, sometimes it's easier and we don't even realize it, where we're blindfolded by it. We are frozen by it. Sometimes it's hard to move forward. And a lot of times it's hard to realize that if we just kind of shake our head, the bindings would come loose and we could see that we could just walk forward and out. And it's by walking forward and out that we become that King of Cups. So that not only are we helping ourselves, but we're helping others. So the 5 of Cups and the 8 of Swords is kind of like that thing I like to talk about, where if you hold up a brick this close, it's an insurmountable wall and we will never get around it. But if we can shake off that blindfold, and if we can just step back and step out of it, we'll see that it's just a single brick. And that we can see around it, and we can see what's actually going on without feeling all enclosed and everything. So today it really is about, the past is the past. We all have this feeling of loss at some time, or regrets. But these are the things that help us grow from the Page to the Knight to the Queen, so that we can pull that huge wall away. We can step from our thoughts and our anxieties. And then what can we bring to make things positive? What as a king can we do as the King of Cups to make things just a little bit better? That's a tough one, especially if we're feeling overwhelmed and we're so focused on what it was and where we came from that we're not seeing the positive in where we're going. And the one positive we have is the positive that we bring to where we're going. We may be the only positive in somebody's life. So we have something positive to bring. And Maureen says the King of Cups looked very much as if he would rather be somewhere else. The King of Cups, he sees the turmoil. Look at that turmoil. Because air and water, you mix them together, and it's like that's what causes storms, doesn't it? That's what causes waves and choppiness, and but he still has his feet, for the most part flat on the ground. But he is the King of Cups in all of their turmoil. We may be that one anchor. So yeah, he may very much want to be someplace else. but he's also the King of Cups with his empathy and feeling, emotion and spirituality. And so, in all reality, we probably all want to be someplace else right now. Just because the way things are going right now. But again, we need to kind of step back because, treating each day like it's our last day on earth is very tough to do in times like this. If this was going to be our last day on earth, what would we choose to do? Well, one day we're going to be right about that. So we need to be forward thinking and then offer up what we have that's the best that we are. And then giving that out to the kingdom. So, with that, yeah, moving forward and trying not to live with regrets. Moving forward in spite of, sometimes, that's not easy. Sometimes, and then being willing to take a step out. And I used to cry because I didn't have shoes until I met a man who cried because he didn't have feet. So I think this is just moving forward and moving past. This is what it is. Moving forward and moving past. So with that, I hope everybody has that amazing day. Amazing rest of their evening. All that other wonderful stuff. Thank you all, and I hope you all have a great weekend. That's right, it's Friday. So, looking forward to my weekend. Everybody, take care, and I will see you next Monday.
Stars in the sky, cards in my hand, searching for signs, lost in the sand. Whispers of fate, echoes of dreams in the dark slate. Nothing's as it seems. Flip the cards, turn around. Mysteries we have found. In the shadows we dance. Take a chance, take a chance. Ghostly figures, guiding light. Readers and seekers in the night. Hopes and fears written in gold. Truth appears as stories unfold. Flip the cards, turn around. Mysteries we have found. In the shadows we dance. Take a chance, take a chance. Ghostly figures, guiding light. Readers and seekers in the night. Hopes and fears written in gold. Truth appears as stories unfold. Flip the cards, turn around. Mysteries we have found. In the shadows we dance. Take a chance, take a chance. Stars in the sky, cards in my hand, searching for signs, lost in the sand. Whispers of fate, echoes of dreams in the dark slate. Nothing's as it seems. Flip the cards, turn around. seekers in the night. Hopes and fears written in gold. Truth appears as stories unfold. Flip the card, turn around. The stories we have found. In the shadows we dance. Take a chance, take a chance. Stars in the sky, cards in my hand, searching for signs, lost in the sand. Whispers of fate, echoes of dreams in the dark slate. Nothing's as it seems. Flip the card, turn around. The stories we have found. In the shadows we dance. Take a chance, take a chance. Ghostly figures, guiding light. Readers and seekers in the night. Hopes and fears written in gold. Truth appears as stories unfold. Flip the card, turn around. The stories we have found. In the shadows we dance. Take a chance, take a chance. Ghostly figures, guiding light. Readers and seekers in the night. Hopes and fears written in gold. Truth appears as stories unfold. Flip the